Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has decided to use Prince George's 11th birthday to hit back at the vile and horrendous Sussex Squad trolls. And I completely support her for this. So let me explain. She has released a brand new picture for Prince George's 11th birthday. But most critically, this portrait, which is really lovely, by the way, black and white, perfectly shot. But as you'll see there, critically taken by the Princess of Wales very recently indeed, because George is believed to be wearing a friendship bracelet that he bought or was given at the Taylor Swift concert that he attended recently with his father, Prince William, and his sister, Charlotte. And what's so interesting about this is that, do you remember back in March, the Sussex Squad trolls, and I believe lots of operatives working on behalf of Harry and Meghan, thought they had secured a massive victory over Catherine by trying to humiliate her over the release of a picture which was then proven to have been manipulated with Photoshop, which, let's be honest, isn't a big deal. Lots of people these days do it. What wasn't known at the time, of course, was that Catherine was suffering from really serious cancer and undergoing chemotherapy. So there was a good reason why maybe the picture that she released at the time was not up to her usual standards. What happened, though, was a sense of hysteria across the mainstream media, which again, I believe, especially in the US, are heavily influenced by people working on behalf of Harry and Meghan. So lots of the major photo agencies, including AP, decided to issue warnings on photos being released by Kensington Palace to say that these images have been manipulated. You can't trust them. Actually, some of the picture agencies even stopped distributing Catherine's photos, and the idea was that they would stop her from ever taking her own portraits and releasing her own portraits in the future of her young children. But what I loved about this release today is that Catherine is saying, hell no, I'm not listening to you. I'm not giving in to the Sussex Squad. I'm not going to march to the beat of the American mainstream liberal media, which is desperately trying to do down my reputation by suggesting that there was some sort of conspiracy about the fact that I wasn't seen in public because I was secretly undergoing chemotherapy. And I have to salute her for that, Leilani, because the thing is that I worry that the royal family sometimes are becoming far too influenced by what happens in the media. I'll give you the example. Ngozi Fulani, who I think actually set up the late Queen's lady-in-waiting, possibly secretly recorded her, trying to make her say something inappropriate. And within 24 hours, Prince William had effectively derided this woman, who was his own godmother, as being racist. Now, that was a knee-jerk decision. Actually, what's wrong with Catherine taking her own images? Actually, what's wrong if she photoshops them a bit? I mean, Leilani, you probably know a bit more about this, but don't all celebrities, whether it's Kim Kardashian or Amanda Holden or whoever puts these pictures up on social media, aren't they all photoshopped these days?
I'd say a lot are. I try to avoid it down. I go for wrinkles and all. There was one video today I put out that I didn't realize would go viral about insects, and you've got my grey hair showing, but my appointment's not till Wednesday. So,
Yeah, I don't use Photoshop either, actually. I personally don't believe in it. But the point is, it wasn't an international scandal, was it, that Catherine used it? Because sometimes what parents do is they want all of the kids to be smiling in a photo.
Yeah. I think it happens a lot when you're taking professional photos, especially, and there's a lot of people. They do, sometimes nowadays, I've heard they mix things about a little bit. I think they do it maybe with school portraits as well, because there'll be one kid, closing their eyes. So then they'll have, they'll put, when it's a group shot, they'll maybe put in the head of a time when they had their eyes open. So it's still a photo, but it's just been like kind of digitally altered. So I think that it does happen quite frequently, especially in group photos. And it's good. I'm glad that she's putting out, because like you said, I do think the royal family do listen to far too much to what some of the people in the media have said, like that, the whole Ngozi thing. That was just insane. around that time, going back to that to me was crazy. And that was one of the weirdest things, where they made this, like, as you said, a knee-jerk decision.
Yeah. When
And
Lady
decided
Susan
to,
Hussey had provided her whole life of service to the royal family. And
oh,
what has Ngozi Fulani done other than run a charity which, let's be honest, doesn't seem to be run so well?
no, that, I mean, to me, that was crazy that they did that. So I'm glad that she's able to take pictures of her child and her children and be able to put them out again, because, sometimes you want to do that. You want to take a little nice picture. You don't want to have a professional coming in all the time. Just, take a nice shot like any of us do with our nieces or nephews or children or whatever, and put it out.
And June, also, it's about trying to give these kids the most normal upbringing possible, which, let's be honest, they don't have. And of course they don't have it. I know they live a life of great privilege. All of that I understand. But if you're dragging in professional photographers all the time into the house, actually, all of a sudden that becomes a boring duty for the kids. Whereas actually, Catherine snapping the picture at an opportunity when the kids are happy and relaxed can create great results. But the thing I was happiest about, June, is that Catherine didn't give in to the trolls. She didn't give in specifically to the Sussex Squad, who have been trying for so many weeks and so many months to destroy this woman with total lies.
I think Princess Catherine is probably one of the most dignified people I've ever seen. I mean, I think Diana was someone that the public loved, but she was a flawed character and probably quite mischievous. I'll say mischievous. But what has this woman ever done wrong? She's not put one foot wrong. The only other royal I see in that vein is the Queen, who's passed. And obviously Princess Anne, who's a bit of a workhorse. She never stops working. But I do think that in this day and age with telephones, I mean, I'm on a little computer in my lounge. I've got no particular equipment. My telephone does everything. And so if she decides to take a family portrait of one kid in particular with her iPhone and upload it, I think that just shows that she's quite savvy, and that will be part of normal life to them, rather than, as you say, everything being staged. Do you remember when they used to take the photographs on the skiing holidays? I'll never forget that one with Prince Charles with the boys. He sat there, and I think it was Nicholas Witchell, who worked for the BBC, royal correspondent, and under his breath, Prince Charles went, "God, I can't stand that man." That was absolutely priceless. That was the best skiing photograph I'd ever seen. If social media had been about then, it would have been absolutely plastered everywhere, wouldn't it? I mean, imagine going on your holidays with your kids and having to sit there smiling, looking at a bloke you haven't really got any time for. I know you say it's a life of privilege, but is it a life you would want?
No,
I'm sure there's a happy medium where a lesser royal can live a freer life and have a lot of pampering going on and a lot of easy living and not worry about bills and stuff. But I do think once you're in the main echelon of the royal family, I think there's a lot of commitment, and there's a lot of attendance that you have to do that is probably boring, monotonous, travelling in between, trying to look your best. How many times must she think, I could just do with brushing my teeth an extra time because I've just been to this place and then this place. And they've always got to be impeccable. They're under the microscope all the time. It is privilege, but it comes at a price.
Couldn't agree more. And I think what's so horrible about what Catherine and William are having to deal with is that the Sussex Squad in particular are out to destroy them at almost any cost. And it's very often not based on any form of fact. I mean, we saw all of that in the run-up to her releasing that video where she revealed to the world that she did have cancer. But look at all of the speculation in the weeks before that. It was completely untrue. The things that people were saying were actually actionable, and I won't repeat them here because they were so nasty and so unfair. And so I'm glad that she has decided to take back the narrative. However, it has been a very stressful weekend for Catherine, because it was revealed by the Daily Beast that Donald Trump's assassin, or the man who shot Donald Trump, the wannabe assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, this oddball 20-year-old, one of the few things they know about this guy is that he was Googling Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and had multiple images of Catherine on his phone. Now, obviously, we don't know for sure what was going on here, okay? But given his other queries did include Trump and President Joe Biden, there is a suggestion that perhaps he had also been thinking about some form of attack on Catherine, which obviously wouldn't have been easy given he's in America and we have strict gun control over here, and Catherine is not being seen much in public at the moment. All of that being said, June, this will still be very stressful for Catherine, given that security is something that has always plagued the royal family. So what do you make of it, and do you think the security around Catherine needs to be upped as a result of this revelation?
I think they'll probably up it, but I don't know if they would admit to it. I think she's got enough on at the moment. I mean, she's a mum, just being a mum, and she's a very hands-on mother. Obviously, a lot of the royals are pretty detached, but she's a pretty hands-on mother. She's got to run a family life. She's got to run a diary, and she's getting over cancer. I mean, can't we cut the woman some slack? She came out at Wimbledon looking immaculate, smiling as though there was nothing going wrong in her life. And I'm sure there's some very physically uncomfortable things going on. And she just needs some support. Just lay off the woman. Why can't this posse of people just lay off her for a time, just to let her heal and get used to the momentum of being back in public life? I think as far as this nut job's concerned, and let's face it, they are nut jobs, I think she's pretty safe. Travel costs, getting a gun into the UK, her going to America, pretty slim. A lot easier to get to someone like Trump because it's a public event where you can slip through a crowd easily, especially if the security services don't seem that bright. You know, what was that woman doing, ducking behind the president? I thought you're supposed to fling yourself on him. I mean,
Indeed.
Whoa, you're down the road.
And I mean, Kimberly Cheetle, the head of the Secret Service, has been absolutely monstered testifying in front of Congress this afternoon because of all of the security failings. But I guess, Leilani, what has worried some within the royal family is that so little was known about Thomas Matthew Crooks, and actually so little is known about him even now. And that's unusual when it comes to an assassination attempt, because you'll remember with the JFK assassin, we immediately knew about his Russian connections and communist links. With the attempted assassin of Ronald Reagan, we immediately knew that it was because he was obsessed with the actress Jodie Foster and was trying to impress her. Yet, how is it possible that in 2024, no one seems to know anything about this 20-year-old who came so close to taking out Trump? And the only things that really anyone has found out so far is the fact that the people who he was searching for via his internet history were Trump, President Biden, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and the FBI Director Christopher Wray and US Attorney General Merrick Garland. I mean, it is unusual, isn't it? Also, Catherine was the only female that he was searching for.
So I do think it's very strange. I think the entire thing has been extremely strange from start right until now. I'm glad they could get into his phone, because I read that the FBI couldn't get into his phone, and I'm like, God, they seem to be able to get into anybody's phones or anybody's clouds. How in the world? So if they don't know, then they don't know for a reason. They don't want to know. They don't want to know about it. And, there's, in my mind, I don't believe he was working alone, and I think it was an inside job, as in he probably had some, because when you listen to snipers and former security people, they keep on, you had Sebastian Gorka on, didn't you? And he said, how can this actually happen? And then you got the lady, is her name Kimberly Cheetle, did you say? Saying
yes,
that,
Kimberly Cheetle, yes, head of the Secret Service.
We couldn't put a sniper on the roof because it was too slow.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the insanity that they're coming out with and they're wanting us to believe. So unless the CIA or the FBI has a problem with Catherine, I think that she should probably be okay, because I think that's where we may have to look at how this all happened and how this unfolded, and if this guy is just a patsy, if this guy had controllers, if this guy was brainwashed in some way, like who had got to him, what had he been doing, and I think if we don't know this and this doesn't come out, I mean, who even knows if it does come out in the mainstream, how do we even know if we can believe what's said? So I'm going to keep looking at the alternative media to find out what's going on there.
Yeah, there are so many questions that remain unanswered, but what I'm so concerned about is usually when it comes to these assassination attempts, actually there's a flurry of information in the early days, because then the trail runs cold and you've got all of these journalists in America. How do they not know anything about what happened? Or are they looking after each other? Are they all part of this potential conspiracy? And Monica Crowley earlier in the show had some fascinating things to say about that. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.